Welcome back to Brazil Crypto Report. Today I'm joined by Fabrício Tota, who's head of new business at Mercado Bitcoin. We talk about Mercado Bitcoin's success in bringing tokenized fixed income products to the Brazil market, its participation in the Drex pilot, and how it's seen a surge in meme coin trading in recent weeks. All right, so we are joined here today by Fabrício Tota, who's the head of new business at Mercado Bitcoin. Fabrício, it's great to have you here.
Oh, thanks for inviting. It's good to be here again. A long time that we don't talk here at the podcast. So very nice to refresh a lot of things 2 years after. So a huge bear market
Yeah.
after the first talk. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we recorded our first episode. You were one of the first guests I had on this show about 2 years ago to the day, and I think it was right before everything sort of began collapsing, right before Do Kwon and Three Arrows and all this kind of stuff. So a little different environment. We've been through a lot since then. So, but we're back. We're still alive. Crypto is a game of survival, as we all know, and we've survived. We're here. So I wanted to have you back on the show just to talk about what Mercado Bitcoin has been up to the last couple of years and how you guys are positioning yourselves moving into this next bull market. So great to have you on the show, and appreciate all the contributions you've made to Brazil Crypto Report and just to the ecosystem generally. I think you're one of these guys who's you're omnipresent. Like I see you everywhere. You're always in the media and whatever, on podcasts and things, but great to have you back here. And I'd love for you to kick us off by talking a bit about how Mercado Bitcoin has adapted over the last couple of years. It's been a pretty difficult bear market, and obviously crypto is one of ups and downs, and you're always kind of preparing for the next cycle. But talk a bit about how Mercado Bitcoin weathered the bear market. What was kind of the strategy? Obviously, what hasn't been your first bear market. You guys have been around for a while, but what was the strategy this time?
Yeah. We've been around for 11 years this year, so we've seen a lot happening. But especially, I think that we learned a lot from the 2018 bear market. Uh, it's hard to say that we were aware or ready because every cycle is completely different. This is going to be different, of course. And 2020-21 was really huge. So we were able to do a lot of stuff to grow a lot, but the bear market was huge also. So it's been tough, but we developed and we evolved to have a clear vision, a future, and what we want to build. What we see the future and how we put ourselves into this future. Being a crypto exchange is not enough anymore. It's kind of easy to set up a new one, have a lot of competition, but if you only do one thing, and matchmaking and getting orders, listing stuff, you won't be too far, won't get too far. So we have been building an ecosystem around the crypto exchange for a long time. So the future, we see, first of all, regulation evolving. I have the central bank as the centerpiece of regulation right now. And we see sometimes it doesn't develop as fast as we wanted that to be, so we have the public consultation and so on. Probably in the near future have more clarity, but it will bring more competition also. So it's good, but it's good for everybody. So we need to be ready for this new moment, and not only ready, but helping building this regulation. The second really good part of it is tokenization. Tokenization is something that we've been working on since 2019. So 5 years tokenizing stuff and trying, making some mistakes, but also evolving and developing this tokenization market, now getting a lot of traction, since 2022 and 2023 were two big years for tokenization here at Mercado Bitcoin. Talking about buying Bitcoin or Ether or whatever back then was not that easy, but tokenizing assets was kind of trendy, not only in Brazil, but even in other parts of the world. RWAs were not a word or an expression, 3 or 4 years ago, but today is everywhere. And also, well, leveraging our position as leaders here in Brazil, and the bull market is good not only because prices go up, but because it brings a lot of attention from other people and other companies. So onboarding a lot of people, onboarding some companies on our B2B approach also of distributing tokenized products and crypto assets also. So there's a lot of stuff to do, and putting ourselves not only as a crypto exchange, but a financial market infrastructure, and offering other products other than crypto, like tokenized assets, as debt and equities, also with our initiative MB Startups, for example. So there's a lot around the crypto exchange, and not only, hey, buy Bitcoin. That's pretty cool, but it's not enough anymore, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, and it's one that I think you're seeing all of the major exchanges globally really hitting on, where it isn't enough just to spin up an order book and a matching engine and all these kind of things and list a bunch of dog coins or whatever and hope people buy them and collect some fees, right? Like that's kind of the bread and butter of the business model, and that's obviously that's going to work pretty well during a bull market when people, especially like retail investors, are flocking in and they're like, where do I go to buy these things most easily? But that's not the most sustainable, like longer term strategy, especially during a bear market, right? When people have lost interest, right? So I think you hit on a few interesting points of just other things that MB and 2TM more broadly is involved with, and it's pretty impressive just the amount of things you guys are doing. I will say, and it's hard to even like kind of keep track of everything that you guys are doing. But hopefully I'd like to kind of dive into some of these verticals, maybe one by one, and just touch on maybe starting with the tokenization element, because this has been one of the areas where you guys have really been a leader, and you guys have been out there experimenting with some things and kind of testing the waters. And then I know that, you kind of, in dialogue with the CVM about like, okay, what can we like actually do and what can we not do and all these types of things. But I think the end result is that there's a lot of really interesting products that are live and like are out in the wild right now that it's I think it's pretty advanced here in Brazil compared to what we're seeing in other countries, especially the US, but other markets as well. So hopefully you can kind of dive into what has been the tokenization strategy and what are some of the key successes there that people should know about.
Yeah, when started with this tokenization business back in 2019, it was kind of, hey, we have 1 million clients, we need to use all this technology that it's pretty we dominate right now to do other stuff. So we started seeking other alternatives, and in the US was kind of buzz, not too big, but some around STO, security token offering. But somehow in the framework of an equity crowdfunding, we try to correlate and try to show how it would be here in Brazil. Say, hey, okay, equity crowdfunding is cool, but maybe it's not the coolest thing that tokenization can bring. So we started looking for, hey, what to tokenize. It was pretty good that we didn't make a very easy mistake that was missing something about regulation. Actually, the process was just the opposite. What not to tokenize. So we didn't want to tokenize any securities at that time, because we think that at the time, starting a business, taking care of all the stuff to offer a regulated product it will be really expensive, and maybe we will not be successful, especially because we were, well, the context in a post bear market 2019 was good, but was not brilliant actually. So we were trying to hey, what we got here, things started to improve in the middle of the year, but actually it was not a brilliant we're in a post bear market mood at Mercado Bitcoin. So trying to find other stuff to do. So we started looking for assets that we could tokenize, and it was not easy at first. With the first of all was judiciary bonds, the precatórios. That was a pretty good opportunity, but really hard to sell. You know, when say it's a judiciary bond, not exactly date to be paid, you know, and messing with the judiciary is something that okay, it's fine, but maybe not that much, you know. So we started looking around other stuffs, and going on a fast forward, maybe in 2022, we started say, hey, I think that we have learned something, especially compared, because it's a very Brazilian thing, you know, it's not something that we can copy and paste from other countries' experiences. Brazil is evolving a lot in terms of investment culture in the last 10, 15 years. So people were taking their money out of the banks and looking and trying to find other alternatives, and advisors and companies like XP, for example, to take care of their investments. People have learned that the place or the bank, the institution, the financial institution, they pay their bills, they got the salaries, a different financial institution from the one that they invest money. At least here in Brazil, that's pretty true, you know. And people in general, they, even though equities and derivatives has gained a lot of traction the last years, Brazil is still a country that people and investors in general are devoted to fixed income products. They really like, well, we still have a two-digit interest rate here in Brazil. That's quite a lot. People do not have this culture yet of investing in equities, even our equity. The options you have, for example, not so nice as you have in the US, for example. You buy equities from utility companies and commodity companies, you know, don't have, or retailers, you know, you can't get exposition to tech or AI, for example, here in Brazil, invest in at the stock exchange, you know. So the opportunities is not there's not as much possibilities that could have, or as much possibilities as an investor in the US, that not only the options the investors have, but also the culture, you know, they're used to it. Here in Brazil is completely different. So offering fixed income products could be really nice, you know, especially in a post pandemic, and in a world, in an environment of high interest rate, not only in Brazil, that was kind of typical, but in the US and the rest of the world also. So we try to, hey, what if we try to find products that are, or they're really fixed income products, or really close to a fixed income products. There was also when we have learned and created somehow the renda fixa digital, or digital fixed income. There was a name that got into people's mind, you know, hey, I know what fixed income is. And digital, wow, digital, I'm okay with that also, you know. And teaching people what fixed income product is, or a digital fixed income product is, was much easier than teaching them about tokenization and crypto and blockchain. That at the end of the day, people don't care, So was kind of say, hey, we think that we have reached a point where have say, hey, we are able to explain to people what it is. So the next step is the matter of finding good opportunities and finding good channels to distribute all these products. So that's what we worked a lot in the last 2 years, finding the good opportunities, products that typically people won't find on their typical brokers or banks or whatever. And that are really good opportunities to make them get more money, and using this power of tokenization that is much lighter than a TradFi infrastructure of creating financial products. So that was our call the last 2 years, especially, finding the opportunities and offering them to public through our platform, but also partnering with advisors, for example, for them to offer this kind of product to their clients, and was right in the spot, because as interest rates started to drop, some months ago, people went, hey, I want the last month's interest rate, I don't want the new one. I like the old one, of course, that was higher, and offering these products that offer a higher yield, a higher return compared to what people have on their hands, was a pretty nice opportunity for us to get more traction on this kind of product. So far, I have sold over 500 million reais in tokenized products, and all to retail clients. There's no huge institutional investors so far, so it was much more a play of retail in over 140 different offers. So there's a lot of work. Have a really pretty good and nice team working on finding these opportunities and distribution channels. So I think that was one of the good things of the bear market. We learned a lot, and we are pretty ready, and a lot of things are converging, CVM, talking about regulation in terms of tokenized products, the central bank, the DREX, this RWA trend outside Brazil. So everything is getting together, and it's super nice that we've been working on tokenization for 5 years. We have a lot to add to this discussion, and make some money also.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I really like the color that you gave there, because it's a really good example of how you took this idea that has been floating around for a long time now. This idea of like, oh, let's tokenize these real world assets, and call it whatever we want to call it, but taking it and really offering a product that's very like localized and has good product market fit in the local market here. Whereas like in the US, something like this might not necessarily be quite as popular, because fixed income, well, you can invest in fixed income in the US, but it's not, it's not nearly as like it's not something that retail people get really excited about. We'll put it that way, right? Like the returns are not as, it's like, you put, you do your 60-40 portfolio, the 40% bonds. That's just sort of the hedge in case, the world collapses or something. But people aren't really, you can't really get, 20% yield on fixed income products, generally speaking, in the US if you're a retail investor, right? It's just not really a thing. So, but in Brazil, that's something that people do a lot, and that people have been, are excited about, and they understand the concept. So you guys took this idea and really kind of tropicalized it in this sense, and made it more presentable and more palatable to the local investor community. I have a few follow-up questions on this, but would love to learn more about, how do you guys find these deals? How are you finding, like, maybe talk about like what are the actual types of products? You mentioned like the precatorios before, or precatory notes that are kind of like judicial bonds. But would love to, talk a bit about some of the other types of interesting deals that you found, and what types of these products, and how do you find these people that are interested in tokenize in issuing a tokenized fixed income asset, and what are the interesting types of use cases here?
Cool. Well, we was hard to find the really good opportunities back then. Well, I was in charge of the tokenizing company here at Mercado Bitcoin back then in 2019 and 2020, and well, what I've seen more than 100 of different opportunities and probably 30 to 40 different asset classes, let's say. We have tokenized other the precatórios, the judiciary bonds, receivables, and consórcios also. That's very Brazilian thing. It's a kind of collective investment or collective and scheme to facilitate acquisition of high value goods like houses or cars here in Brazil. There's an opportunity that I can explain a little bit further. But also we have tokenized rights from Brazilian football clubs, from Vasco da Gama and Santos. Was pretty nice work. That the first time that we have asked CVM for permission somehow. Actually, the club Vasco da Gama, they formally have asked CVM if they could tokenize these rights of the players that have played in the club when in their youth, and the club keep the right of getting money if this athlete, this player is traded. So the club Vasco da Gama asked CVM if it's okay, if it's not a security. We help the club on getting to the CVM, and CVM said yes, you can. It's not a security. Actually, they said, well, it's not on my jurisdiction as it's not security. It's not a yes, but is the way the regulator, communicate with the market. We have discussed something about other kinds of rights, for copyrights, for example, from music. We have discussed something about wines, about much agro stuff also. So, but what we got a lot of traction were receivables and consortium. Receivables, actually, some kinds of short-term receivables that someone has the right to get some money from in 60, 90, 1 year, 180 days, 1 year, and they say, hey, if you anticipate with a discount, I can sell you this right. So that's what we do. We get this receivable, this future receivable, and we tokenize and sell to investors. It's a pretty super simple somehow opportunity to tokenize, but it got a lot of traction. The challenge here was to find companies and partners that could feed constantly new opportunities to us. It was not easy because there's a lot of competition also, and regulation comes to place when you are discussing because, hey, one opportunity could be depending on the instrument they use for this debt. Regulation applies in a different fashion. So it was pretty intense work at first, but right now we are able to find the same players that have some other receivables to be tokenized, and now it's a cycle, So we keep trying to find other opportunities, but receivables and this consortium that people they enter in this group, to buy a high value good, and for example, 1 million reais. But for some reason they are not able to pay anymore, or they just give up paying, and they have to wait. All the people that are paying get their goods or the credit at least to buy these goods, and then get their money back if they have quit the group in the middle. So what we do, we find these people that are not paying anymore, and we have even founded a company that specializes on finding these opportunities, buying these rights, the installments from the original buyer, change the name, the owner of the installments, and tokenize and sell to clients. So it's a huge process, a very long and a lot of bureaucracy on finding and changing the owner and so on and so on. But when you have the opportunity to tokenize it, it goes just like this, in 45 minutes. The last one we were able to sell 3 million heads in 45 minutes. It was crazy, yeah, because at the end of the day, the names that of the who is going to pay you are huge companies, typically linked to huge banks here in Brazil. So this is the credit, the risk, the credit risk that you are taking. I won't mention the names of the companies and the banks here, but you can go to Mercado Bitcoin's webpage and see there. But typically, it's companies that they pay, I don't know, 100% of CDI on an investment if you make directly, and you can get 20% over what you get typically. And you have some other benefits, like that limit up to 35,000 reais that you don't pay taxes if you sell. So it's so good, for many investors that are used to this kind of product, that they're trying to find every time investment that they don't pay taxes. So, was pretty clear that connected to these people's minds, and we were able to get a lot of traction last year.
Very cool, very cool. And then I assume that developing this pipeline of new deals and new tokenized assets has gotten maybe a little bit easier over the last year or so. Just now that you've got more just operational chops with doing this, and people are more familiar with the idea, and you also have some successful examples that you can point to. So I'd be interested in hearing your take on just where do you see kind of the tokenization market in Brazil going in the next maybe 12 months or so? Is this it seems like a lot of what MB and what some of the other tokenizers have been doing is still very, it's significant numbers, right? If you've got what was it, 500 million reais worth of that's $100 million US dollars, which is significant. But still, it feels like you're really still just scratching the surface of this market, especially with regards to fixed income tokens. And just kind of curious, like how much do you think this, how much uptake do you expect there to be in the next year, just generally around these tokens in the market here? Do you think we're at a point where like this might pop, or does it still need to keep grinding a bit to really get to that point where you might be able to really take off?
Well, regulation is going to play a central role this year. CVM is discussing with many players, how to regulate. It's very clear that they say, hey, it is on our jurisdiction. We will take care of it. So finding the right way and the right instruments, and even having more clarity from the CVM is key to really escalate and be really bigger. We want to make $1 billion this year, so multiply by 3 our size in terms of tokenized assets. It's not easy, but we do believe that all this context of regulation, interest rates going down, and people getting more aware of what crypto is. Roberto Campos Neto from Banco Central talking all the time about the tokenization of the economy. That's something that really helps a lot. And getting outside the crypto bubble, is not easy. So sometimes we are talking, and we meet we've met a lot of times, in the last years in events and so on, and people talking all the time about that. I myself, I do it, well, 24/7, actually. And when you go to the TradFi market, I'm a former TradFi worker, so I still have a lot of friends there. And when you talk about crypto, blockchain, tokenized investments, investment opportunities, and people from big banks, and big companies, asset manager, they really don't know a thing about it. It's crazy because we see that our perception inside the market is that, it is everywhere. Everybody's talking about it, and actually, at the end of the day, nobody's talking about it. So
it's the paradox of crypto, right? We think we're like, oh my gosh, this is taking over the world, and then like, no, outside of your little bubble, like actually nobody's paying attention to it, right?
See, we joke about dogs and dog with hat and whatever, and say ha ha ha, everybody's talking about it, and no one cares actually. So we do think that we only at the beginning of this movement. We know that there are a lot of big institutions on the sidelines, only waiting for more clarity, only waiting for regulation, and then competition in 2 years or something will be much, much bigger than it is today. And so it's inevitable because people will learn a lot when these sidelined companies are in the game, actually. And this is pretty good for the let's say the crypto native company, but we must be ready. For example, regulation from the 38 questions that the central bank sent to the market at the end of last year was pretty clear for me. The bar you raise a lot. It won't be that easy to get a license to be a VASP, a virtual asset service provider, whatever it means. For an exchange, custody. There's a lot of talking about tokenization. There are a lot of tokenization players that they say, hey, I'm only the infrastructure. I don't want to touch any kind of regulated business. So being only this technology infrastructure, does it really help a lot? I think that if we are in the beginning of tokenization, when it comes out to the technology, well, not even the patterns are clear. We have from patterns from the ERC patterns for tokenization are being built. Today, last year, the first ones that are closer to be a good pattern were released in 2023. So it's pretty easy, in terms of technology, in terms of regulation. But yes, I think that crypto native players, we must be on the edge, always, trying to push the regulators and push the market and getting some leading, from the pack, that's still trying to and evaluating. All the banks have their digital assets division or department, whatever. A lot of banks, they have their professionals working with digital assets, but not everybody, but only a few companies have their offers in the streets. So I think that will change a lot, but I'm talking about that all the time to my colleagues, from other companies. We must go deeper. We need to go further, otherwise, if we if we do the same, of waiting for regulation and just laying off, hey, let's wait, let's not do anything right now. Let's wait for regulation. It's not the game that we play the best,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'd like to touch a bit more on on some of the central bank related themes here with regards to like Drex and regulation. But before we jump into that, I just want to kind of wrap up with kind of the Mercado Bitcoin business model. I know you guys have had offered a few more like B2B focused products as well over the last year. Things like, you know, crypto as a service and custody and even some fund management services, just in light of the CVM rule change that allows funds to more easily invest directly into crypto assets. So I was hoping you could maybe touch on some of those lines of business as well.
Yeah, maybe the last cycle in 2020, 2021, it was the last time that we really wanted all the clients for us. We still want it, but we do know that many other companies want to offer crypto products in general to their clients, and they have a lot of clients. So this fight for a share of wallet, this fight for the attention, share of mind, the attention of the client is huge. Not only on crypto or investments, but it's a much broader subject here. So our idea was to build a B2B product, a crypto as a service product to offer to the market. If you want to offer Bitcoin or Ether or whatever, or Dodge exposition to our clients, or if you want to offer only tokenized assets, or if you only want to offer, for example, fund tokens, or if you only want to offer your very own coin, you know, your very own token on your platform, and you do not want to touch everything that comes with this responsibility, especially on matchmaking and custody. So this takes a lot of effort. It's hard. It's not easy. It's expensive in general. I think things are evolving, and you can buy some boxes that are pretty easy to set up. But you have to have people, you know, to take care of all this stuff. So say, hey, so if you do have clients, for example, put my infrastructure to work for you, and you can launch in 3 or 4 months, you know, and not in 2 years or something like that. So Magalu was the first huge client that we got. So people go to Magalu Pay, their payment institution app. So they can buy Bitcoin, they can buy Ether, but actually under the roof, it is a Mercado Bitcoin infrastructure that is serving Magalu. For example, when advisors they sell these products to these tokenized assets, the fixed income, digital fixed income products to their clients. From their perception, they're working on a platform, you know, and under the hood is a Mercado Bitcoin solution also for them. So pretty easy, you know, they're talking to the client, hey, you want to buy equities, you want to buy fixed income products or tokenized digital fixed income. For them, it's all the same, you know, and they just post their order and it's done. So I think that we started building this kind of infrastructure back in 2021. I remember clearly, you know, when the first client started discussing this kind of solution. So somehow we are helping even our competitors somehow. The people well, imagine that back then, in the last cycle, with Bitcoin skyrocketing, people say, hey, I need to buy Bitcoin. I don't care, you know, if it's uncomfortable somehow that you really need to onboard another platform. It's not something that, okay, I am used to it, but using a new app or a new bank or a new financial institution, even though we are not yet, well, we are with our payment institution, but it's uncomfortable for most of the people, you know, opening a new account, whatever it is. But the assets, the crypto assets were so hot that it's worth it, you know, the shot of, you know, okay, I'll stop what I'm doing now to onboard on a new company, a new application to to invest. And but right now it's pretty easy. You can have the Bitcoin Ether exposition in a handful of ways here in Brazil. You know, you can buy an ETF, you can buy a fund, you can use your bank or your payment institution application. You still can onboard on a crypto exchange like Mercado Bitcoin, and the onboarding is much easier today than it was some time ago. But it's not what will make the difference. I think that offering having a broader offer of products is much smarter than trying to get all the clients So offering this B2B was our way of saying, hey, I still want to serve all the country, and 200 million people, but not specifically directly. We can do that with partners and these clients that use our B2B solutions.
Yeah, and I like that line of reasoning, right? Because there's not going to, in the future, there's going to be no shortage of ways that people can buy crypto, right? It's going to be pretty ubiquitous, and fighting for that wallet share for that is going to be difficult. But if you can be providing the platform that other people can build their crypto offerings on top of, then okay, you have multiple skins in the game, I suppose you could say, or multiple horses in the race. And I'd like to talk a bit about the Drex project here. And I know you guys have been, you're one of the few actual crypto native companies to be participating in the Drex pilot. And if I remember correctly, I may be misremembering this, but please correct me if I'm wrong. But when they first announced the initial consortiums, I think you guys had been like left. You guys weren't able to be in the initial round because you didn't have like the payments, or like you weren't like a regulated financial institution quite yet. But then you received your payments institution license from the bank, and then they were able to grandfather you in basically, which was obviously a big deal. Am I remembering that correctly? Was that the sequence of events that what happened with that?
Yeah. Or something like that. We did have financial institution at a consortium at the time, but bureaucracy and paperwork and so on were able to put Genial at first. But well, the process that was something that we are not in the initial list, but counting that would be a second list, sometime after that. Of course, we have to appeal and so on. But we've made it. And yes, it's very special that we are the only crypto native player that leads a consortium. So
right.
We lead it, and we have along us, have with us MasterCard, Genial, Thinkia, and Circ also. So it is pretty nice, to have a pretty good set of companies working in the consortium with us. And well, it's been a really pretty nice journey to be part of the pilot, the Drex pilot. First, because well, it's completely different what we are doing, the central bank is doing here in Brazil with the Drex. CBDC is always a super nice topic, especially when you are talking to people from other countries, because the differences and the flavors, of CBDC are completely different from one place to other. For example, some countries they try to cover the payment side of CBDC. So they offer to public in general, to retail, as a way of facilitating payments. Fortunately, here in Brazil, we have Pix, so it's not an issue anymore. Of course, it can improve. You can change the technology, but there's no point in doing that right now. Using crypto or blockchain or DOT, whatever, on Pix. If it's working pretty fine, 160 million people using it. It's free for individuals. It's super quick. In seconds, typically you pay your stuff. So it was not an issue. Remittance and cross-border is typically a second choice, and say, hey, facilitates a lot remittances and cross-border. Well, you specifically know that you are not the typical guy. You kind of live, traveling all the time. You're from US and so on. So maybe for you, will help a lot. But from most of people, people in general, they don't have this need of sending money abroad. It's not a very clear use case here in Brazil. So okay, so offering a CBDC or creating something to facilitate cross-border or crypto, actually using crypto to cross-border is not an issue. So the central bank got all this experience saying, hey, but is there an option, that you can use CBDC to other stuff? So this idea of a wholesale CBDC, CBDC that only financial institutions and payment institutions touch directly the CBDC, and you build an infrastructure, a blockchain. Drex is more than the name of the Brazilian, the digital real, the name of a platform where other assets other than the real itself will live. So having other stuff and in the pilot, public bonds, for example, Brazilian treasuries, it just gives a small sign of what we could and what we will build on top of Drex in the near future. So this tokenizing experience that we have here at Mercado Bitcoin, for example, all the judiciary bonds and receivables and everything we've been tokenizing for 5 years could be put on Drex, and being traded between people using Drex. So this idea, for me, it was pretty brilliant that they could just say, hey, doesn't solve any problem that we have, but the central bank is trying to go deeper on that and say, hey, what if I offer a platform for you guys to play around with this crypto and tokenization and other stuff without depending on some crypto native solutions like stablecoins, for example. It's pretty nice. We do have our own stablecoin here in Brazilian reais, but if you were dealing with the real itself, not a stable coin, for most of people or most of the companies will be much more comfortable to be under the supervision somehow and of the central bank. And we do have a very hands-on central bank here in Brazil. They make stuff, they build stuff. It's completely different from other places. Well, I think that it's a big opportunity to be there, building stuff and helping with the challenges and about privacy, about interop, for example. There are issues that we do deal here at Mercado Bitcoin for a long time, and we can help a little bit with our experience. And the central bank is always very open to what we are saying,
Has participating in the Drex pilot given you or given MB some more clarity on like what are the types of use cases and possibilities that can emerge in this like Drex EVM based financial system? Right? I feel like one of the issues that I have with Drex or that I feel like other people have as well is it still feels like it's still very vague as like what is actually possible and like what are they actually trying to do. And it's kind of like it's like an ink blot, like Rorschach test, right? Where you dump a bottle of ink and then you look and see what is this picture of, right? But has participating in the pilot maybe given you some more clarity on like, oh wow, like this is what like could actually be possible here that we weren't thinking about before?
Yeah, definitely. Because well, the pilot itself is about trading Brazilian treasuries on chain. That is not a huge use case. It's just for the sake of doing it, And it's pretty simple financial instrument. Everybody knows, and it was really easy for the central bank to go to the treasury and say, hey, let's do that. Yeah, let's do it. So it's just for the sake of testing technology and so on. The two examples, Fabio Araújo and people that are more connected to Drex, they like to give is the for cars. For example, when you buy a car and you have to change the ownership of the car and pay what goes first. I pay you for the car you're selling me, or you transfer the ownership of the car to me. So the paradox somehow, and is a day by day use of it, that DVP, delivery reverse payment on a DOT or blockchain could help a lot and make things really easier with a smart contract. The second one is almost the same, but uh, with 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 real estate, for example. That is a lot of paperwork and bureaucracy, and it's not cheap exactly. And the same, this delivery versus payment, of changing the ownership of a house, for example. But these are, for me, these are only the examples from book examples somehow. Of course they're nice, but when it comes to financial instruments, that can be tokenized and traded in a much more simpler way with smart contracts in a network like Drex. That's what attracts me a lot, in this pilot. So sometimes it's part of what we've been building with tokenization so far, and putting it on a different environment, with other players also putting their products, the tokenized products, and a lot of ideas come to mind, especially when we talk about the possibilities of going with all these assets and everything that happens on the Drex network, on the Drex blockchain, let's say, to the external world. When it comes out to running these assets outside Drex and public networks, for example, this really blows my mind. I think that the huge opportunities are there. It's pretty nice to work on this permission, not on permission. The problem is not being permission, but under the supervision of the central bank, but taking out some assets and putting them into other chains. That's what the really good problems to solve are there, in my opinion. Of course, we do need a lot of other developments on the technologies, on the relations between different jurisdictions, on cross-border remittance here in Brazil, some advances in the regulatory side, but I think that Drex will be only the place where everything settles,
Yeah.
and when all the players are. But I think especially the crypto native players, they have this huge opportunity of connecting to other Drex, to other places, being a centralized exchange as ourselves, so we can be the door, the entry door for many people to interact with what's going on Drex, and also to going more deep on the technical side, and dealing with other products. It draws a lot of attention from people abroad. Well, when I'm traveling, this is my official shirt for events outside Brazil. People all the time, they say, "Hey, you're from Brazil, so tell me what's going on there." So there's a lot of opportunities also for us to connect to other countries and other protocols, other companies, to make things happen. And Brazil is very well positioned in terms of regulation and ecosystem and
Yeah.
environment in general to be part of it.
Absolutely. And I just want to sneak in a couple more questions here before we run out of time, but would love to just get some color on the last like 3 to 4 weeks or so. We've had a pretty we've seen retail come back in a big way. We've seen meme coins. I mean, we've obviously seen a lot of price spikes. But could you give us some color on, what have you guys been seeing on the MB platform? Getting back to kind of the exchange bread and butter business here. What have you guys been seeing as far as just like new inflows coming in, new trading activity? Are Brazilians coming? Are they coming to MB to buy meme coins and Pepe and Doge and all these things? But what kind of trends have you guys been seeing on your side?
It's fun because we all every time we are getting ready, for a bull market, but when it happens, it's completely different from one to the other, and this meme coin trend is just impressive. For example, on the top 10 here in Mercado Bitcoin this month, we have Shiba, Pepe, Flocky, and Dog with Hat. This is pretty impressive, of course.
So five of the top 10 are meme coins.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it happens. I don't blame the clients. André Franco, a colleague here, he says that it's financial entertainment. So can be, people can be entertained by trading and making some money, sometimes losing some money, sometimes also. But we do see a lot of action on the stronger coins like Bitcoin, Ether, Solana got a lot of traction also. And even old folks like XRP, for example, and Polygon, people making huge bets on this coin is something that we've seen in the last weeks, but a lot more than the retail. Well, we are very strong on retail when in these bull markets, when price really spikes, we see a lot of people reactivating their accounts or onboarding new people also. That's pretty good, but we've seen a lot of interest of other companies and protocols from abroad also to say, hey, I have something to tell to your 4 million clients. So more than just listing, and listing is a kind of art, somehow that super fine to list a meme coin, but no one wants to list a scam. So we really need to take care and get in contact with the teams of the coins and so on. And that's something that people are taking, and people have an eye in Brazil for real right now. So all the regulatory outlook in US and Europe, Asia is a different animal, so people they do want to do things in Latam in general, and Brazil, of course, being 50% almost of Latam. We have a huge stake of it, and a lot of other companies taking really caring about Brazil. So and I do believe it's a really nice encounter, of people on one side and companies and protocols on the other, that will help our market evolve somehow. But yes, actually, at the end of the day, in these 5 weeks, actually, I'm still counting it. We've seen a lot of action of people from the most different sides, even from tokenization, that people were there's nothing to do with this bull market, but people just remembering that crypto is super cool, crypto is nice, and crypto has changed the way people do business. So everybody wants to be part of it, but we need to choose the really good opportunities, because it's not easy to get with more things in the plate than you can take care during the bull market. The last one was pretty tough on it. We learned a lot, and how to deal with these multiple inputs, and demands from the whole world, literally.
Yeah. And how do you see this playing out? I mean, do you see? I mean, Brazil, like, assuming we are going into back another bull market here, which hopefully we are. I mean, obviously, price of Bitcoin's at all-time high, so I guess we're officially back in a bull market. But we've had a bit of a pullback the last couple of weeks, and people are kind of sour a bit more. But like just looking at like this bull market, looking at kind of the market landscape in Brazil is much different than like the previous bull market, right? You have a lot more of like the global exchanges here that are they're actually setting up like actual entities here. They're not just kind of just sort of hovering over and just I mean they're actually like they have like legal entities set up here. And they're coming out in a pretty big context. You've got the big banks that are have crypto offerings now. You have like New Bank, the digital banks as well. And then plus we have like kind of like, players like yourselves that are more established in the local market and have been kind of diversifying. But how do you see just like the competitive landscape playing out in this next bull market amongst just like all these players, right? And I think in an ideal world, like look, like the market's going to be big enough where there's a slice for everybody. If this next bull market's as big as we think it could be. But kind of how do you see all these dynamics playing out?
I think it's the last one, or the last 12 to 24 months when competition is going to be so with some different companies, from global companies, huge companies, to tiny local companies, to something in the middle like ourselves, a huge company but local. I think that we'll see some companies going out of business, just because they can't stand the burden of regulation, or they don't want sometimes. Some global players also say, hey, I'm out of it. I don't want to have this burden. So local, very specific, that only works here in Brazil. So the market is big, but maybe not big enough, or maybe doesn't fit their strategy, this global strategy that some companies have. And you hear every now and then, every week, that a crypto exchange is outside a specific country, and I'm talking about a lot of exchanges, for different reasons. They just stop doing business on specific jurisdictions, and some sidelined companies that they're wanting the green signal, to jump into this market. So we have banks, other financial institutions. We have some companies that they want more clarity. Retail brokers, for example, they want more regulatory clarity to be inside the business. Well, we can see, for example, PicPay and XP with Xstage. They left the crypto building, the crypto business, just, I don't know, 1 week before this bull market started. Maybe a bad call, yeah, bad timing. But well, this lack of clarity, put some companies say, hey, I want to put much more effort, but I don't have enough clarity, and I'm a regulated company, and I'm listed in NASDAQ or so on. So it's hard, for some players to be at the business, without this clarity. So what I see in 12 or 24 months, some consolidation, and leveling the competition, saying, hey, what you might have to be part of this business. And I hope, and this is really something that I hope, that the players that do not have with the clarity, if everybody, well, it's pretty clear what we can and what we can't do. I really hope that the players that don't fit, they are just outside of business and not doing some kind of different strategy, to be still here, still around, while you have a regulated industry and some unregulated players. That doesn't make any sense in any business. So we do hope that in the near future we have much clear that these are the players, these are the offers, and competition will be much more on product fit, on innovation, on user experience, and so on. But I think that it might change a lot. If you talk about the top players, and in 18 months, I think it will be much different from what it is today.
Got it. Well, Fabrício, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you coming on to tell us what MB has been doing and catching up with you. I'll give you the last word here. Any final thoughts, and how can people find you if they want to get in touch?
Well, thanks a lot for having me at your show. Always super nice talking about future and what we see in terms of market development. Well, people can find me on LinkedIn, especially Fabrício Tota on LinkedIn, but also on Twitter, ftota, FTOTA. And the Mercado Bitcoin in every social network as Mercado Bitcoin. But well, always a pleasure talking with you, Aaron, with other people also that find me using LinkedIn. Always willing to talk about Brazilian market and how we can play this role of being really relevant in the global crypto ecosystem.
Amazing. Well, Fabrício, thanks for your time, and thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next time.